Chapter 7 Gwen, you are to go to the dungeons and guard the Merlin bastard. The captain of Camelot's castle guards told the dozen or so of them. Organize the men, 6 up a gate, 6 fore and aft. Check the prisoners' food as our servants bring it, we will be to blame if more poison is used this night. A tall, broad Briton, fair-haired and mild-faced looked at them all, grinning. Well, you heard the captain, you four, cell door. The rest of you, steps and up a gate. He grinned again, a man who was at ease in command. Well, look lively. The Merlin guard'll be trying to break the door down unless you lot get your acts together. Elune nodded with the rest. It was in her company that Bayard had unresistingly gone, 4 guards flanking him to the cells. He had called for his men to halt and guard the women. It was lucky he was able to do that, Elune considered, seeing as he was accused of trying to poison Prince Arthur. Time passed and the moon rose, its half-full light spilling onto the castle's dungeon's flagstones like ethereal milk. Elune turned from her thoughts, which involved, crudely, sharing with King Bayard she was loyal to him, and to find out what information he required. I came when the Merlins arrived, which was not untrue. I was promoted. You are from the north. All Britons could tell from speech where another came from. There was no harm in telling him, since she had left over a year before. My village was near the Hayfren River, she told him. The guard shifted his spear. Not the one that the northern raiders massacred. Heard about it in Camelot. We did. He shifted again. Elune felt a cold chill fall down her neck and spine. I don't think so. My family were alive and well when I left. No, this was over a year ago, after harvest, the guard continued, thoughtfully. No one was left alive. I might have remembered that, Elune returned, hoping she sounded nonchalant. But her heart stabbed with cold, despite her brain telling her to consider reason, that there were scores of villages north of the Hayfren. What? She began, but a call came up from below. Stop chattering on, Elphice, and get down here. 2 other guards were coming up, presumably Elune and Elphice's replacements, and she followed the tall, thin boy down the steps into the torchlight. Prisoner duty, Kay told them both, his voice sounding both weary and cynical. And don't go to sleep, either of you, or else it won't just be Bayard executed in the morning. 88,888,888. The woman who came down the steps in the early hours of the morning had the weary steps of someone who had risen early and had not yet finished the jobs her position demanded of her. She carried a broth and bread. As Bayard was the only prisoner in this part of the dungeons, it followed the food was for him. Elphice, you have the key. Elune nudged his leg with her foot. When he grunted and closed his eyes, leaning back against the wall, she kicked his shin sharply. The woman lowered the small tray and stifled a small giggle. Elune rolled her eyes towards Elphice, as much as to suggest, typical, and pulled his arm. Get the key out of your pocket, Elphice. Kay will be along. He wouldn't want to see you've been asleep. Her sharp, hushed words did the trick, and the young guard came to his senses. Eyes on the stew, he fumbled for the lock. Elune pulled a torch from the wall and held it so Elphice could see. Inside the cell, Bayard slept, his rhythmic breathing moving the air around him. Elune chanced on an advantage. Sire, a servant has brought you food. Then, changing from Saxon, she repeated it in Cymraeg. Bayard sat up, then rose to his feet. The servant girl put the tray into the king's hands. No, Elune protested, as the king was about to eat. Foolish, yes, she would reflect later, arrogant. But the Britons did not want Bayard to be poisoned, or the whole treaty would be defunct and a long war would ensue. She was say after all, and Bayard was the king that she had chosen. That will not be necessary, though I value your care, Bayard told Elune as she took up the spoon. He glowered at the maid and then took a few steps backwards, before flicking a glance to Elune. She took some steps back along with Elphice, who locked the door again. Elune watched the maid head to the door, but then she doubled back. I saw you speaking to Merlin before the poisoning, the maid told her. I'm Gwen, Aeled. Elune took Gwen's hand held out to shake. They glanced at Elphice, who had resumed his. And, I heard you speak say to King Bayard. Elund nodded, guessing where this was going. I know the language and you offered to take a taste of the food, Gwen added, pointedly. Above, past the down guard, calling to be relieved, claiming she was feeling ill. A broken bar spear point would be too noisy, too unteger. Broken bar. A broken bar she could dash. You are say, but can speak the Briton tongue? Elund found herself pull Gwen from the proximity of the bars with her sleeve. They stepped back into the corner. I am Briton and was abandoned in Logre. Elund lied. I found a king to serve, and was, with the many other Britons, given the freedom to remain in Cymru. You heard that? Elund watched Gwen nod her dark head. At least that part was true. And you changed from guard to Bayard to Camelot guard. Elund nodded. You will never tell anyone, Gwen? Elund growled. Otherwise, yes, but listen, Gwen said urgently, ignoring Elund's threat. I'll keep your secret. I saw you talking to Merlin before. She raised a hand to her mouth, stifling a brief whimper. Drank from Prince Arthur's goblet. Yes, Elund finished. She waited for Gwen to continue. Merlin left, with a Saxon maid. But, I am suspicious. I have seen her around before, and always bad things happen. Elund thought back. Yes, she did remember. The girl had on a blue dress, unusual for a say, for the color was difficult to obtain. A red tie around her hair. Yes. But Elund had never seen her in Bayard's palace before. No, she is not Saxon, but I'll ask around. Where will I find you? Attending Merlin, Gwen told her. Gaius, the court physician, is with him. But he will need rest. Gwen broke off again and looked at Elund again. You chose to come back to your land, Gwen reiterated, a smile on her face. I expect it feels good. Serving a Saxon king feels good, Elund told herself. She nodded and Gwen backed away, stifling a giggle as Elphice snored and spluttered, waking himself up. What's your name? Gwen asked, hurrying back over. Aled, Elund replied, and put a hand on Gwen's arm in what she hoped was a reassuring gesture. I'll ask the Britons I know. And, where will I find you? Gaius, Gwen repeated. Go to Gaius.